They say your fortune follows your focus. But what if I told you it also follows your plumbing? Not your bank account, not your resume, not the number of hours you work each week. It's something far more subtle and often overlooked, because the energy that shapes your money doesn't always live in your wallet or your career. Sometimes it's hiding behind your bathroom door. That's right. The very space most people ignore, rush through, or leave dimly lit and cluttered could be silently draining your wealth without you even realizing it. This isn't superstition, and it's not about superstaging your home with gimmicks or crystals in every corner. This is Feng Shui at its core, not as decoration, but as energetic intelligence. It's about understanding how the form and function of your space send messages into the field around you. And when that message is incoherent, the universe doesn't respond with clarity. It delays, it deflects, or worse, it withholds. You see, every space you inhabit holds a vibration. Some spaces energize, others deplete, and the bathroom, by nature, is one of the most energetically sensitive zones in your home. It's where water flows, and water in Feng Shui is wealth. But unlike the peaceful streams you may imagine, the water in your bathroom is being pulled away constantly. Every time you flush, drain, or rinse, the chi of that room is moving outward. That might not sound dramatic, but over time it creates a pattern, a message, one that says, flow out, not flow in. This is where we begin. Today I'm going to show you one small shift, a single intentional placement that can help rebalance that message. It's subtle, it's practical, and when used correctly, it acts as a quiet anchor that stabilizes your finances, restores your inner calm, and shifts the way your home holds energy. But before we explore that simple yet powerful change, I want to invite you into something bigger. Because at New Day Mindfulness, we're not just here to give you life hacks. We're here to help you design a life that supports who you're becoming. One decision, one shift, one insight at a time. So if you found even one piece of resonance in our past videos, if something here has helped you see your home, your habits, or your energy differently, I'd be deeply grateful if you'd click that like button, share this with someone you care about, and hit subscribe. We're close to reaching 2,000 subscribers. And while that number may seem small in a sea of algorithms, it means everything to us, because it tells us this message is reaching the people who need it. People like you who want more than superstition, who want clarity, practical wisdom, real transformation that doesn't require you to become someone else, but instead helps you become more aligned with who you already are. So thank you in advance. Your energy, your presence, your click helps this message ripple outward. And just like water, that ripple can create change far beyond what we see on the surface. Now, let's walk back into your bathroom. You may think of it as a purely functional space, where you brush your teeth, wash your face, shower, flush, forget. But energetically, it's far more than that. In Feng Shui, the bathroom is considered one of the most yin-heavy environments in the home. Yin isn't bad, it's necessary. It represents rest, water, darkness, surrender. But when yin dominates a space, when it goes unchecked, it creates excess. Too much stillness, too much moisture, too much retreat. And when that retreating energy meets water, symbolic of your finances, it can start pulling things away before they've had a chance to root. That's why in so many homes where the occupants are hardworking, spiritually aware, and making all the right choices, money still doesn't seem to stick. There's forward effort, but no return. Growth, but no accumulation. And almost always, the energetic signature of the space plays a role. You may have felt it yourself without knowing the words for it. That sense of mental fog after a shower, that heaviness near a bathroom that always seems dim, that leaky sense of Something's off in your home, even when everything looks clean on the surface. This is the hidden cost of unbalanced energy flow. Not in your routines, but in your environment. But the good news? It's also one of the easiest things to correct. You don't need to rebuild your home. You don't need to buy expensive furniture. You don't need to chant mantras in every mirror. You just need to understand how energy moves and how to offer it an anchor, something steady, something warm, something that speaks to the earth, because earth balances water. And that brings us to the item I'll reveal in just a few moments. It's simple, practical. You might already have it in your home, but used intentionally, it becomes more than a towel or a color or a fabric. It becomes a signal, a stabilizer, a quiet declaration that says, this is a space that honors flow but no longer leaks value. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'll explain not just what this item is, but where to place it, why it works, and how it activates a shift that, when combined with a few subtle corrections, can change the way money responds to your space. Not through force, not through fantasy, but through alignment. This is Feng Shui as it was meant to be, real, rooted, and accessible to anyone. And it begins right where most people forget to look, behind the bathroom door. Why bathrooms affect money flow. In Feng Shui, water symbolizes wealth, not just metaphorically, but energetically. It represents movement, nourishment, and the flow of opportunities. And there's no room in the house more water dominant than the bathroom. But here's the paradox. The very space that holds so much symbolic wealth is also where energy constantly drains, down sinks, through pipes and out toilets. Without intention, that outflow doesn't just carry waste, it can carry qi. When bathrooms are left dim, disorganized, or overlooked, they quietly become zones of energetic leakage. And in our lives, that may show up as money that arrives but never stays. Income that increases, yet still feels insufficient. A sense of always catching up, never gaining ground. This is what Feng Shui calls a dispersing current, where your financial energy flows outward faster than you can anchor it. Symbolically, the spaces we neglect often mirror the parts of ourselves we ignore. A bathroom covered in clutter or hidden in darkness may reflect a relationship with money that feels unstable, unsupported, or out of alignment. And like stagnant water, that energy doesn't just sit, it breeds fatigue, confusion, and misdirection. But here's the good news. The solution isn't complex. With a few small shifts, some we'll explore shortly, you can transform your bathroom from an energetic drain into a stabilizing force for wealth, clarity, and grounded focus. Because when qi flows with intention, prosperity begins to stay, not just pass through. Transformative tool, the earth yellow towel. Trigger yellow towel. In the art of Feng Shui, the balance between elements isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a practical strategy for managing energy in spaces where imbalance occurs silently. Bathrooms, being water-dominant environments, are often at risk of energetic overexpression. When water is unchecked, it not only depletes fire and clarity, but also overflows into areas it doesn't belong, weakening structure, stagnating movement, and dispersing opportunities. That's where earth comes in, not as an object or symbol alone, but as a stabilizing energetic force. And one of the simplest ways to introduce earth energy into a water-heavy space is through the color yellow. Not neon, not loud, but soft, muted, grounded yellow, the kind found in ochre tones, wheat cloth, or warm clay. In Feng Shui's 5-element cycle, earth supports and balances water by offering absorption, containment, and boundaries. And color is not just decor, it's vibration. A pale yellow towel placed with intention becomes more than a functional item. It becomes an anchor, an energetic cue. a declaration that the space will no longer allow energy to spiral down the drain without acknowledgement. When placed near the bathroom mirror, this towel acts as a soft interrupter of the water element's tendency to pull chi downward. Why the mirror? Because mirrors amplify energy, and when paired with water, they can double the outflow. But introducing earth at that point of reflection introduces not just contrast, but containment. Mirrors bounce light, yellow holds it. The two together create a dynamic that encourages clarity, not just movement. And in practical psychological terms, yellow has long been associated with optimism, discernment, and focus. It's a color that gently awakens the mind, sharpens perception, and lifts moods, qualities that support confident financial decisions and grounded self-trust. The towel doesn't have to be flashy or large. In fact, the more humble and intentional it is, the more it aligns with Earth's frequency, steady, quiet, reliable. A yellow towel that is clean, folded, and cared for tells the space. This home honors containment. This energy has boundaries. Wealth is welcome here, but not without stewardship. And while it's easy to dismiss such a shift as symbolic or aesthetic, one real-world story illustrates the deeper impact these changes can have. A few years ago, an international textile designer, let's call her Elise, hit a creative and financial plateau. Her online sales were flatlining, her licensing partnerships were stalling, and despite working from a beautiful apartment in London, she constantly felt mentally foggy and emotionally tired. On the advice of a spiritual consultant, she decided to make a few changes to the energy of her home. Not drastic ones, just subtle corrections. One of them was introducing a soft yellow hand towel into her sleek, all-white bathroom. The consultant explained the water overload in her space, especially with all the reflective surfaces and cool tones, and how earth energy might bring more clarity and retention. Elise wasn't convinced, but she was curious. Within the first few weeks, she noticed a change. Not in luck, but in mindset. Her mornings felt less rushed, her showers more calming, and her ability to focus returned. She began sketching again. Ideas she'd shelved for months suddenly felt obvious. Soon after, a licensing deal came through with a major department store, a deal she later attributed not to sudden luck, but to a reorientation of her inner space. One that she believed started, quite literally, with a yellow towel in a forgotten corner of her home. Her bathroom, once ignored, had become her space of anchoring. And what changed her results wasn't the towel, it was the awareness and intention she had been missing. That story matters because it echoes the deeper lesson here. It's not about the towel itself. It's about what it symbolizes and where it's placed. When you bring earth into a water space, you are rebalancing a relationship between movement and stability, between outflow and grounding. The towel isn't a superstition, it's a message. One that says, this space is no longer passive, it's participating in wealth. Whether you live in a small apartment or a luxury estate, the energetic rules remain the same. Energy flows where design allows. And when the design includes earth in a water-heavy room, the result is not just better balance, it's better outcomes. Not overnight miracles, but steady returns. Calm mornings, clearer thoughts. Financial momentum that doesn't just arrive, but stays. And in the world of energetic wealth, staying is the real success. So when you look at your bathroom today, don't ask what looks beautiful. Ask what feels grounded. Ask what needs anchoring. Ask where water needs containment. And then place something simple, soft, and stable, like a yellow towel, with the clarity that even small changes, when made with intention, have the power to shift everything. Not because the towel's magical, but because you are. When you begin using your space to reflect the life you're ready to receive. That's how earth balances water. That's how clarity returns. That's how wealth begins to flow in ways you no longer have to chase. You simply become the space that holds it. Beyond color, 3 critical Feng Shui bathroom adjustments. While the introduction of color, particularly earth-toned element, and it's like a soft yellow towel, can do a great deal to balance the bathroom's natural tendency toward water-dominant energy, color alone is not enough. Feng Shui teaches that true energetic transformation occurs not from isolated decoration, but from an ecosystem of intentional choices. And in the bathroom, where the flow of water, light, and subtle neglect often converge, there are 3 key adjustments that must accompany any symbolic addition. These adjustments aren't just decorative improvements. They are energetic recalibrations that shift the way your space communicates with the field of prosperity. If ignored, they can silently sabotage your efforts no matter how many beautiful items you introduce. But when addressed with presence, they act as silent amplifiers of everything you are trying to build. Financial steadiness, mental clarity, and emotional ease. The first and most overlooked adjustment is lighting. In Feng Shui, light is not just illumination, it is life force. It carries yang energy, the active, expressive, outward-moving quality that counterbalances the bathroom's heavy yin condition. Bathrooms, by design, are often compact, enclosed, and moisture-rich. They are meant for release, cleansing, and privacy. But this very structure causes qi to settle low, heavy, and slow. Without adequate yang infusion, that energy becomes stale. It breeds forgetfulness, fatigue, and financial lethargy. Light then becomes a vital remedy. Yet it's not simply about having a bulb. It's about the quality and presence of that light. Flickering bulbs represent indecision, inconsistency, and energetic decay. Dim lighting, especially in the morning, sets the tone for a day started in half shadow. Replace every struggling fixture not just as a maintenance task, but as an energetic reset. Choose warm, natural white tones around 3000 to 4000 Kelvin, if possible. This range is activating without being harsh. It uplifts qi without overwhelming your nervous system. Think of it as sunlight for the soul of the room. When light enters with strength, intention follows. And intention is the precursor to action, to clarity, to decisive financial momentum. A bathroom well lit in the early hours of your day does more than help you see clearly. It helps you think clearly. And when your thoughts are clear, your decisions, especially about money, gain a magnetic precision that scattered thinking can never replicate. The second adjustment is cleanliness, but not in the conventional surface level sense. In Feng Shui, cleanliness is an energetic act. Every streak of mildew, every clump of hair in the drain, every layer of dust in a forgotten corner holds what's known as dead qi. This is not poetic metaphor, it's a real phenomenon within energetic environments. Dead qi is the residue of energy that has lost movement. And just like stagnant water breeds bacteria, stagnant qi breeds delay. When dust accumulates, decisions stall. When grout becomes discolored, relationships lose warmth. When unseen corners are neglected, parts of your own life begin to feel invisible. That's why deep cleaning your bathroom is not just a chore, it's a metaphysical purge. It is the literal act of removing what no longer serves. And it sends a message not just to your home, but to your subconscious. I am worthy of clarity. I deserve to live in a space that reflects intention, not delay. Focus especially on what's behind and beneath. Beneath the toilet base, behind the faucet, around the mirror edges. These are the energy blind spots. When cleaned, they don't just look better. They release emotional weight you didn't even realize you were holding. As you clean, move slowly. Breathe. Focus not just on what you're wiping away, but what you're making space for. Clearer thinking, lighter energy, more generous flow. And as you scrub, consider using natural ingredients. vinegar, citrus, sea salt. These are earth-aligned materials that cleanse on both physical and energetic levels. When the space is clean, it no longer holds the past. It becomes ready to receive the future. The third and most symbolically loaded adjustment is water flow and plumbing. Nothing reflects your financial field more directly than how water moves, or fails to move, within your home. In Feng Shui, water is not merely symbolic of wealth, it is wealth in motion. A dripping faucet is not just an annoyance. It is a slow bleed of prosperity. Every drip carries a signal: loss, delay, erosion, and the unconscious mind, which registers these rhythms even when you are not paying attention, begins to mirror them. You may start to feel like no matter how much you earn, something is always trickling away. Clogged drains, too, represent stagnation. They create blockages not just in water pipes, but in your ability to process emotion, absorb nourishment, and release what no longer serves. These physical symptoms of imbalance always echo through the energetic field. That's why they must be handled promptly and with reverence, not just fixed, but reset. Go beyond the mechanical. Turn water into ritual. Before taking a shower or running a bath, pause for 3 seconds. Offer a brief mental blessing. This water carries away what I no longer need and makes space for clarity and flow. When you wash your face, imagine that you are not just cleansing skin, but refreshing your perspective. When you brush your teeth, imagine strengthening your voice. Water is the medium of movement, and when respected, it becomes a partner in your transformation. Consider sealing drains during key moments: new moons, full moons, or days when you feel particularly vulnerable, not permanently, just temporarily. This symbolic act tells the space, today nothing escapes, today I hold energy, I do not leak. These may seem like small gestures, but energy listens to consistency, and consistent reverence for your water flow trains your field to stop expecting loss and start trusting containment. When lighting, cleanliness, and water flow are all tended to with presence, your bathroom stops being just a functional space. It becomes a steward of your prosperity. Not loud, not dramatic, but reliable. And reliability is the foundation of wealth, not just financial, but energetic. It's not the size of your home or the price of your products. It's how clean your energy is when you walk into a space and say, this is where I begin again. And when that beginning happens in a room that supports clarity, movement, and respect, the rest of your day, your choices, your income, your opportunities, begins to align with that same standard. Not because of luck, but because of light, order, and flow. The core materials of change, the silent tools of abundance, hidden perhaps behind a mirror or a pipe, but now finally seen. The toxic trio to avoid. In the language of energy, not everything you add brings more. Sometimes what you remove speaks even louder. And in the bathroom, there are 3 common design missteps that may seem harmless, but quietly sabotage the flow of wealth, clarity, and calm. These aren't about aesthetics, they're about how form reflects intention and how subtle symbols, when repeated, can send disruptive signals into the field of your life. Think of them as the toxic trio, not because they're dangerous in isolation, but because of the patterns they reinforce. And in a space as sensitive as the bathroom, those patterns multiply quickly, leaking prosperity and dampening momentum without you realizing it. The first and most overlooked culprit is an open toilet lid. Though it might seem like a trivial detail, in Feng Shui, the toilet is one of the most significant energy exit points in the home. It is the physical gateway through which waste, both biological and energetic, is flushed away. And while the act of flushing is necessary, the way we interact with that process reveals how we handle containment. When you flush with the lid open, qi doesn't just leave, it disperses. The force of water movement sends microparticles into the air, yes, but more importantly, it symbolically scatters energy throughout the room. It's like pouring intention into a bowl with no bottom. It cannot hold. And your subconscious over time begins to reflect that same pattern. Spend before saving, speak before processing, act before anchoring. Closing the lid before flushing isn't about superstition. It's about discipline. It's an act that says, I respect this boundary. And when the universe sees that you respect the energy of removal, it begins to trust you with the energy of arrival. The second item in this energetic triad is the oversized or lidless trash bin. In many bathrooms, trash is treated as an afterthought, tucked into corners, left open, often forgotten. But in energetic terms, trash represents what no longer serves. It is the physical accumulation of discarded energy. When it sits exposed, especially in a space meant for cleansing, it sends a quiet but constant message of neglect. Overfilled bins become symbols of overwhelm. Lidless ones invite energetic leakage, odor, and visual disruption. The size, too, matters more than most realize. Oversized bins suggest a subconscious expectation of waste, that your life naturally accumulates more clutter than it clears. But Feng Shui teaches that how we handle what we discard is as important as how we hold what we gain. A small, leaded bin in a neutral tone says, I manage energy with clarity. I keep what is needed. I release what is done. Clean it regularly, not just when it smells. Wipe it with intention. Place it as you would a sacred vessel. Because even in removal, dignity matters. When the energy of waste is respected, the energy of wealth becomes more stable. The third mistake is deceptively charming, placing live plants in bathrooms that don't support their growth. In principle, plants are considered beneficial. They represent the wood element, growth, renewal, upward shine. But in practice, their needs must match the environment. Bathrooms are humid, often windowless, and prone to temperature fluctuations. In these conditions, most plants don't thrive. They suffer. Leaves yellow, roots mold, stems stretch toward non-existent light. And what begins as a gesture of vitality quickly becomes a symbol of decay. In energetic terms, a dying plant speaks loudly. It tells the space, life cannot be sustained here. That message, when repeated daily, affects your sense of potential, resilience, and growth. It's a visual metaphor for ideas that don't flourish, projects that start strong and fade, goals that never root. If you love greenery, choose with discernment. Opt for high-quality artificial plants, ones that look alive and are easy to clean. Or better yet, introduce elemental earth energy through stones, ceramics, or bamboo trays. These materials bring grounding without the risk of withering. They say, this space is alive, but stable. And that's exactly the energy a bathroom needs, living presence without fragility. Together, these three adjustments, closing the toilet lid, refining your trash receptacle, and replacing vulnerable live plants, form a trifecta of containment, clarity, and grounded design. They may seem small, but they carry enormous weight because they affect what happens invisibly, how energy enters, how it stays, and how it leaves. And in a room that governs cleansing, flow, and release, those patterns are foundational. This is the part of Feng Shui that matters most. Not the objects themselves, but the messages they send. The toilet says, what do you allow to leave? The trash says, how do you release what's done? The plant says, can growth rate survive here or is it forced? And when each of those questions is answered with care, your entire space begins to shift. Not with noise, but with quiet alignment. In a home that holds your future, The bathroom must not hold your past. So refine it, respect it, and let it become what it was always meant to be, not just a room you use, but a space that silently shapes how your life unfolds. Because prosperity doesn't only respond to how much you want, it responds to how well you hold what you already have. And in the energy of the bathroom, every detail matters, even the ones most people never see. Energetic symmetry, bringing balance to the space. Bathrooms, by their very nature, are rarely constructed with energetic balance in mind. More often than not, they're squeezed into leftover architectural spaces, corners, nooks, half-levels, designed for function, not flow. As a result, the geometry of these rooms tends to be asymmetrical. Off-center vanities, lopsided shelving, toilets positioned beneath awkward windows, or lighting fixtures that cast shadow on only one side of the mirror. Over time, this spatial irregularity begins to echo subtly into your mental field. It doesn't just create aesthetic discomfort, it generates energetic noise. That's where symmetry becomes a powerful tool, not just in design, but in the quiet art of alignment. In Feng Shui, symmetry is more than a visual principle, it is a signal of coherence. When you walk into a space and see two folded towels placed evenly, a pair of candles flanking a mirror, or two shelves balanced in proportion and tone, the mind relaxes. It recognizes harmony, and the energy in the room follows suit. It's not about achieving perfection, it's about creating rhythm that feels complete. By placing matching towels on either side of the sink, or storing products in mirrored containers on parallel surfaces, you tell the space, everything has its place. And that message is internalized. When the bathroom reflects orderly, your thoughts become more ordered. When the color palette is even, earth tones balanced with soft metallics or gentle pastels, the nervous system feels less reactive. This isn't just interior styling, it's a frequency adjustment. In spaces where architecture creates sharp corners or uneven distribution of fixtures, symmetry acts as a remedy. It calms jaggedness. It corrects imbalance, not by changing structure, but by softening its effect. Think of a shelf that's too short on one side of the room. Placing a tall plant, real or artificial, of equal height on the other side balances the visual weight. Or if your mirror is unusually tall but narrow, anchor it with symmetrical lighting, sconces on both sides, or two identical objects on the counter beneath. These adjustments don't just satisfy the eye, they regulate qi. They invite the energy in the room to circulate with more ease and intentional direction. And yet, visual balance is only part of the equation. To truly refine the energetic quality of your bathroom, consider scent as a silent form of chai. Just as color and shape carry frequency, so too does aroma. A bathroom that smells damp or chemically sterile often feels energetically flat, no matter how clean it is. Introducing scent with purpose transforms the emotional tone of the space without adding clutter. Lavender promotes rest and emotional regulation. Orange peel brightens the mood and activates yang energy, especially useful in spaces where mental clarity is needed. Sandalwood grounds. It deepens presence and clears residual heaviness. These are not just pleasant fragrances, they are energetic signatures that imprint the space with intention. A diffuser placed at the center of the bathroom, not tucked in a corner, becomes a beacon of subtle upliftment. Even a few drops of essential oil placed on a warm towel or woven into a drawer sachet can recalibrate the mood of the room instantly. The olfactory system connects directly to memory, decision-making, and mood regulation. That means your daily rituals, brushing your teeth, washing your hands, preparing for rest, can become infused with a microdose of alignment simply through the presence of scent. When visual symmetry and aromatic clarity come together, a bathroom stops being an afterthought. It becomes a place of deliberate energy, A room where both eyes and breath find ease. And that ease carries over into how you make decisions, how you interact with money, and how you move through your day. Energetic symmetry doesn't require expensive design. It requires presence. And presence is what transforms a bathroom into a temple of flow. Quiet, grounded, aligned, ready to reflect your intentions instead of your imbalances. The power of small corrections. Sometimes the greatest transformations don't begin with grand gestures. They begin with a drawer that finally gets cleaned, a towel folded with care, a light bulb replaced not out of habit, but with awareness. This principle, that small corrections in your environment can create large shifts in your life, isn't just poetic. It's something many of the world's most intentional individuals understand and live by. Not because they're trying to impress, but because they've experienced firsthand how tiny acts of respect toward a space shape the rhythm of their inner world. Take, for example, Gwyneth Paltrow. While she's widely known for her career in film and her role as a wellness entrepreneur, what's less talked about is her consistent attention to energetic space, especially in the places most people overlook. In one interview, Paltrow explained that her day doesn't begin with her phone, her inbox, or a green smoothie. It begins in the bathroom with ritual. Not complicated routines, but small, repetitive acts that center her energy. Lighting a candle, opening a window, rinsing her face with warm water infused with calming scent, folding a towel with precision. She shared that this space, though humble, sets the tone for how her energy enters the day. Not because the bathroom is glamorous, but because it's the first environment her body, breath, and energy interact with after rest. And it makes sense. In Feng Shui, the bathroom is considered a gatekeeper. The quality of energy you meet there either disrupts or directs the chi that flows into the rest of your home and your consciousness. Paltrow's practice isn't about luxury, it's about clarity. It's about saying to the universe every morning, I begin with order, I begin with intention, I begin by honoring the most forgotten space. That message doesn't stay confined to tile and mirror. It moves with her into meetings, charters, and even creativity. She doesn't wait for the world to create balance. She begins by creating it herself in a room most people rush through or treat as purely mechanical. And she's not alone. Many high-functioning individuals, whether in entertainment, entrepreneurship, or design, share this trait. They have an almost reverent relationship with the spaces they use most often, especially their bathrooms. Why? Because they understand something that Feng Shui teaches explicitly. When you show respect to the small, the large aligns naturally. When you bring intentionality to where you clean, release, and prepare, the rest of your life starts to flow with more ease and fewer blockages. This is not about wealth, it's about frequency. When a woman like Paltrow centers her morning around bathroom ritual, she's not showcasing excess. She's modeling energetic discipline. She's reminding us that the energy of our homes, particularly the smallest rooms, is not peripheral to success, it's foundational. The bathroom holds the power to ground your energy before the world demands it, to cleanse not only your skin, but your scattered thoughts, to restore before you give. So the next time you pass your own bathroom, pause, ask, what message does this room send about how I begin? Does it rush me? Does it drain me? Or does it greet me with a sense of order, clarity, and containment? Because the power of small corrections isn't just theory, it's practiced, quietly, consistently. And in the lives of those who appear grounded in public, you'll almost always find the truth in private. They have created sanctuaries in the places most people ignore. And that's not magic. That's mindfulness, made physical, structure, made sacred. Energy, invited instead of lost. Let your bathroom become that place for you, not by copying anyone else's routine, but by asking, how can I bring 5% more care into this room? Sometimes that 5% is all the universe needs to send something entirely new your way. Finally, the bathroom is not just a room of function. It is the unseen organ of your home's energy body. It processes what you release, filters what you no longer need, and prepares you quietly for every day you step into the world. But like any vital organ, when left uncared for, it starts to send signals. Not loud ones, subtle ones. A hesitation in your decision-making, a delay in your financial growth, a fog that hangs in the back of your mind even after sleep. The mirror gets a little dusty, the faucet drips, you stop noticing. But the energy never stops noticing. When neglected, this space can flush more than just water. It can flush your clarity, your confidence, even your luck. But when tended to with presence, not perfection, it begins to behave differently. It stops dispersing. It starts holding your energy, holding your stability, holding the vibration of someone who values their inner space enough to shape their outer one with care. This is what Feng Shui truly teaches, not rituals for performance, but relationships with space that reflect the relationships you want to build with yourself. If you want more abundance, create a space that honors containment. If you want more direction, align the flow. If you want more peace, clear what's hidden, even if no one else will see it, because your energy always sees it, and that is enough reason to change it. So as we close this video, I invite you to walk into your bathroom not as someone using it, but as someone reading it. What is it saying about how you treat endings, transitions, beginnings? What is it reflecting about how you let go and what you allow to stay? Change one thing this week, just one. A towel, a light bulb, a drawer you haven't opened in months. Do it with presence, do it with reverence, and then observe gently how the energy around you begins to mirror that shift. If this video helped you see your home differently, especially the spaces you've overlooked, please consider sharing it with a friend who's ready to change their energetic relationship with money, space, or clarity. Leave a comment below. What's the one shift you're committing to this week? I'd love to read and respond to what you're working on. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to. We're growing steadily toward 2,000 subscribers here at New Day Mindfulness. Every like, every share, every new subscriber is not just a number. It's an expansion of this community, this conversation, and this shared commitment to living with more grounded, accessible wisdom in our everyday lives. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your energy. And remember, alignment doesn't require perfection, just participation. Until next time, take care of your space, because it's quietly taking care of you.